Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, energized by Celsius. I'm John Ledyard from pewterreport.com. Scott Reynolds is here with me from pewterreport.com, and so is Matt Matera, whose Bucs Battle Plan for the 2022 offseason we will ridicule shortly. But first, gentlemen, this is going to be a very fun podcast, and maybe fun is the wrong word, but we're going to talk about Carlton Davis and what in the heck happened for him to go from being a player that was a cornerstone of the Bucs defense to a player who could legitimately walk to another team in free agency next week. It is startling. We've got to dive into it. Scott's got stuff y'all need to know about that, about Chris Godwin and his agents and the conversations and talks with the Bucs. It's we're going to load up this show. It's going to be a lot of intel and a lot of stuff of what we're hearing going into the free agency weeks before we ridicule Matt's Bucs Battle Plan. So Scott, I know you've got some things you'd obviously like to share with us for this show and share with the fans for this show. Should we do that before we lay into Matt, or what do you want to do? How do you want to play this?
Well, I tell you what, let's start with Carlton Davis, right? We'll start there because that's the banner, and then we'll kind of get into Chris Godwin too, and kind of how all of this stuff mixes in. So sometimes the team tells the truth, and when you guys were in Indy, right, you heard both Bruce Arians and Jason Light talk about Carlton Davis's injuries in the manner of which we like Carlton when he's healthy, right? And that was a big clue, right? It kind of startled us for a second, but boy, we're seeing it now, because from what I've learned, what we've learned at Pewter Report, the plan was not to tag Carlton Davis. So if indeed the franchise tag was available, if they reached a deal with Chris Godwin, which wasn't going to happen, by the way, they were definitely going to franchise him, because we'll get into that in a minute, but a deal was not going to happen. The agent for Chris Godwin was going to force the Bucs to use the franchise tag on him. And so that happened, but with Carlton Davis, that was not the plan. And the reason is very simple. Reading between the lines, this team does not see him as a $17 million cornerback, because that's the number. I think it's $17.287 million. And so it's kind of crazy, because he's the best corner in Tampa Bay, but how the team, right or wrong, looks at players, and you kind of have to do this. You have to look at it in a vacuum. You can't look at the other cornerbacks on the team. You have to look at Carlton Davis and what is he worth first. And I think Carlton Davis is going to get $16, $17, $18 million in free agency, because J.C. Jackson is probably the number one corner. You can make a case for Carlton or Stephon Gilmore being the number two corner. And cornerbacks are in high demand. I don't know that Carlton is a great scheme fit for every team, but I do know he's the best cornerback in the Buccaneers. But the problem is, again, right or wrong, I'm just trying to give you the Buccaneer mindset here. When you start to say, ooh, but he's our best corner, and we have question marks at the other positions, right? Jamel Dean, can he stay healthy? Sean Murphy-Bunting, is he any good? Then you get into the overpay scenario, and that's where, if you organizationally get into the habit or the bad practice of overpaying players because you need them. It should be, we want Carlton Davis back. If it's a need thing, we need Carlton Davis back. That's when you're going to overpay. And you overpay this guy $2 million here, you overpay that guy $2 million there. All of a sudden, you lose a player like Will Golston. Right? You lose a comparable player that $4 million would buy.
Right. Well, Matt, this is still bad, right? Like, this team can't really replace somebody like Carlton Davis. There's not a lot of options in free agency to do so without paying the same amount of money. So what are your thoughts on this, Matt, as we approach this week where it looks like there's a legitimate chance Carlton Davis is going to be on another team next week?
Right. That's what I was thinking too, is sure, you really want Carlton back, but you really can't go into the season with, and obviously they would probably sign someone else to replace Carlton, but you can't go into the season with Jamel Dean as your number one and Sean Murphy-Bunting as your number two. So I understand.
Oh, you can.
You can.
But you
can. Sure, but
hold on. This team is going into the season with Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask at quarterbacks. It can happen, but not ideal.
Yeah, sure. Anything is possible. And obviously the Godwin thing, you had a whole year to get it done, and you absolutely did.
Yeah.
It almost felt
That's
like
tough,
when Arians and Light were talking at the combine that we were at. It's almost like you see the movies and stuff when people in the stock exchange when they start to drive down the price of a stock, and then they'll illegally buy it at a low price, and then it'll shoot back up. That's what it almost felt like, where they kind of want to put that out there that maybe we don't like Carlton as much as you all think. So then other teams might not be on him, because you think about the whole injury bug thing. But yeah, I look at it too in terms of, and JC Jackson's going to be too expensive. But if it comes down to, all right, we need a top corner, and you have Gilmore and you have Carlton, and Gilmore's he's in his 30s already. Like, why would you overpay? Maybe not even overpay, but why would you pay for a guy that, sure, you can maybe get that first season really good,
right?
But I'm more concerned about, and this goes with Ryan Jensen and stuff later on in my battle plan, but I'm more concerned about when you sign a guy at that age, maybe not the first year, but it's years 2, 3, and 4, and you would imagine he's looking for a 4-year contract. The breakdown of that, or that player, is what concerns me the most, where Carlton, again, it kind of goes to Chris Godwin when Jason and I was saying, sometimes you just got to bet on the guy. I know Carlton has been injured, but I feel like it's been more ticky-tack injuries a lot more than like a long sustaining one. I know he had the thigh injury against New England.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just have to bet on him. And I think the Bucs have options, but there's no better option than Carlton.
No, there's no better option. And it's going to be a massive loss if he does indeed leave. There will be a huge markup for him. He and JC Jackson are pretty clearly the top corners on the market. He is a guy that represents what a lot of teams really like at the position, and obviously has kind of made himself one of the better corners in the league, I believe. And they know the assignments are there too, because they've watched him cover number one wide receivers and the field and have success too in one of those situations. So there's no question to me this is a massive mistake. And I actually realized as I was mapping out kind of my thoughts on this and writing about it this week, and that I don't think I've said that about anything the Bucs front office has done over the 2 years I've been covering the Bucs for Pewter Report. I really don't think I've said anything, because I was hired a month before Tom Brady came aboard. And so since then, I mean, they really haven't made a bad signing. They haven't really done anything bad as a front office. I just disagree with this one, and I disagree with the way that they've kind of assessed the Carlton Davis thing. I will say that it sounds like that the Godwin situation, however, did handicap them a good bit in terms of their options, at least as far as the franchise tag is concerned. Maybe they knew that. People are going to act like the Mike Williams contract surprised the Bucs because of the timing of when it was announced, but that's not the case. Mike Williams and Chris Godwin have the same agent, and so the Bucs knew that this was going to be the price for quite a while now. What it is giving us an explanation as to why this deal. We wondered that last week, or earlier this week, maybe. Why is this deal taking so long? He's not going to get Devontae Adams money. Like, his range is kind of established, and that was from us talking to really tons of different people who talked to NFL agents. And one source that I talked to expressed was amazed at the Mike Williams contract and said, what's crazy about this wide receiver market maybe bouncing back up is that all the news he was hearing about the wide receiver market being down was from agents, the last people that should want to put that news out there. That's why all these projections you see are low on the wide receiver market, relatively speaking. And obviously last couple of years, the wide receiver market has indicated that as well. So it's kind of coming out of nowhere. Yes, the Mike Williams contract is related to the Godwin contract, but not in a way that it surprised the Bucs at the last minute and forced them to use the tag, just in the way that it's the same agent that represents both players. And he used the situation basically to put the Bucs in a harder place with Godwin. Scott, you're muted.
Sorry, I was muted there. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And I think what's happening with the Godwin situation is this. The agents stonewalled the Buccaneers. Don't blame the Buccaneers for not getting the Godwin deal done. They wanted it done. They want it done now because they don't want to have $19 million worth of cap money tied up in Chris Godwin when free agency starts. So you can bet Jason Light, Mike Greenberg, Jackie Davis, and they're trying to get a Godwin extension done before Monday. Right. And I think it's going to happen. I do, because now the tables have turned. Right. The agent and Chris Godwin got what they wanted. They got the Buccaneers to use the franchise tag, because what that does is it's a declaration. Buccaneers, you think Chris Godwin's worth $19 million. OK, because you just said he was. You gave him the franchise tag. It's not always a given that that's the starting point for negotiations.
Mhm.
Sometimes you'll have a player that'll get a franchise tag, and then the average per year will be slightly lower than that, right? That happens sometimes because you get guaranteed money, and you get what you want. You get security over years, right? Rather than a 1-year deal. So I'm not saying Chris Godwin is going to, get 19 million or 20 or 21. He might. As a matter of fact, I think he will when it's all said and done, because I believe that the agent thought that the market value, that the agent must have heard the market value for Chris Godwin was going to be at least $20 million. And so now what's happened is the Mike Williams deal that reset the market for the wide receivers, right? There were 5 wide receivers making $20 million or more, including his teammate Keenan Allen. And then you got the big guys, the Hopkins, the Julio Jones, Amari Cooper is one of those guys. And of course, Devontae Adams, right? Those were the 5 guys. I think when it's all said and done, you're going to see probably 7 to 10 wide receivers, Godwin being one of them, at $20 million or more. So what happened is the agent forced the Bucs to use the franchise tag because he wasn't getting any phone calls returned. And now Mike Williams has set the market at $20 million. Now the agent goes to the Buccaneers and says, Chris Godwin's better than Mike Williams, isn't he? Because the answer is yes. And he says, okay, well, you've already said he's worth 19, and you're saying he's better than Mike Williams, and my guy Mike just got $20 million. So guess what? That's where it's going to start with Chris Godwin. $20 million, 21, whatever.
And it gets very interesting beyond that too. Like the guaranteed money part of it is.
It might be a situation where they are going to lose Carlton Davis as a result.
Yeah, and the guaranteed money part of it is the most fascinating part to me, because I think Godwin's average per year.
You.
Am I muted too?
I hear you, John.
Oh, I'm not muted. Scott doesn't hear me. Yeah,
you're good.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say the guaranteed money I think is the most interesting part, because the guaranteed money is what really matters to the player, right? Especially because what happened with Mike Williams' contract that was most interesting to me was the fact that he got 67% of his contract guaranteed. That is crazy to me that he got that kind of money guaranteed. That typically, if you look at other wide receiver contracts around the league, if you look at that, they're in the 40%, right? I think Keenan Allen got 40% or lower. He got 67% of it guaranteed. He got it over a 3-year deal, so he can hit the market again before he's 30 or right around when he turns 30. I think it is Brad Spielberger said it on Twitter, Pro Football Focus contract expert. He said like it's one of the most player-friendly deals that he can remember in a long time. One of the biggest wins for a player in terms of contracts. So that's kind of what you're up against in some ways. But also, Godwin's younger. Like there's a possibility he could hit free agency again if you gave him a 4-year deal. He's a year and a half younger than Mike Williams. I think the guaranteed money is going to be a big part of it. Not that Scott is wrong about the average amount per year. I'm not saying he's wrong. I just think there's a couple factors to consider. Williams' average per year, they wanted to be up there. He lives in California, and obviously they have 12.3% state income tax. Godwin has none. So Godwin getting less money makes sense per year. But what's going to be different is the guarantees. Godwin's going to have more in his guarantees than Mike Williams. Even if his average is a little bit lower, he could be in the 4-year $76 million range, but get like 50 million guaranteed, where Williams got 40 million guaranteed. So those are all elements kind of this whole negotiation that could happen. Godwin's deal might look leaner on an average per year basis because also there's the ACL to factor in, but I bet he will get more guaranteed money. So if you're the Bucs, yeah, it's a risk, man. It's definitely a risk. It's more of a risk than I probably wanted to take, Matt, but I still think it's one that could be worth. I mean, still one I would make. I just hate to lose other players if that happens, Matt.
Yeah, I almost did a spit take when I saw the numbers and the news of Mike Williams' contract, because he's a good receiver. Don't get me wrong, but as Scott was just saying too, like, he's no disrespect to him, but he's not on Chris Godwin's level. I think when you look at the Bucs and you look at the wide receivers group, you automatically go, oh yeah, Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. Where if you look at the Chargers, you go, yeah, Keenan Allen, great receiver. Oh, and they also have Mike Williams. He's a good wide receiver. No one's like, oh, they're a dynamic duo, kind of like Evans and Godwin is. So for him to get that much guaranteed money and everything you just said was really interesting to me. And John, I saw you tweeting about this yesterday too, and I really couldn't agree more. Well, one thing too is I almost forget that. Well, I don't forget, but I feel like a lot of people are forgetting about the fact that, Godwin's coming off a very serious ACL injury, and I hope that he comes back like no issues, none whatsoever. But that's not even a guarantee that he's going to like start this season. So I saw you tweeting about it, where it's better for Godwin to get a deal now, because again, you don't know how you're going to look coming back from that injury. You don't know if you're playing on the franchise tag, if the Bucs don't come to a deal with him. You're playing in a year where the Bucs don't even know who the quarterback is. They know it's down to two guys, and Blaine Gabbert and Kyle Trask. But they're looking at a situation where Godwin's numbers, and not everything obviously is dictated by numbers by any means, but Godwin might not have the baller type of years that he's had since 2019 going on now, just because of the way that the offense is going to look next season. So it's even more of an incentive to get that big deal now, and you're playing in a really risky territory going with that franchise tag.
It is. And this brings me to my next question perfectly for you, Scott, is that, yes, I hear what you're saying about the tag and want the Bucs to apply it at least in the short term, because it does. I mean, obviously it's leverage on, but I feel like there's leverage on both sides here. Like Chris Godwin cannot play on the tag again next year. Like he needs to get a long-term deal done. It would be agent malpractice to have that happen. So you are playing, like the short term, the leverage with the free agency coming up, that the Bucs will get it done, and we'll try to move you to a bigger contract. Obviously, I'll fix that on the screen there in a second. But that would be. But the downside of that obviously would be if they don't basically make it happen. Then you're in a situation you're on the tag, and I don't know how that can happen for him. He just found out what that was like, and now because of it, the only reason this is even held up, he isn't getting Godwin or Mike Williams money off the bat, is because of that. If he had another injury like this, he wouldn't be touched, at these kind of rates. This wouldn't even be in the conversation for this kind of money. So we're talking about 19 mil guaranteed for this year, or 50 mil guaranteed if he gets a contract this offseason. He's got to take the best offer he can get at some point and meet the Bucs at least partway on this.
I totally agree. And John, the thing too is, and Matt, to your point, right? He doesn't have Tom Brady throwing the ball. Okay. It's like, he's going to have a lesser quarterback to be named at a later date, throwing him the ball. And the other thing too is, let's keep in mind, he's coming off of an ACL injury. John, I saw you get into it with Moo from Pro Football Focus.
Timo.
Yeah. About
Timo
this.
Risque.
Yeah, exactly. On Twitter, he's making the assumption, well, he's going to be back healthy in 2022. Hold the
not a guarantee.
Not a guarantee. Exactly. Was OJ Howard healthy this year? Yes, he was. Absolutely. He played in every game. He passed the team physical. He was a shell of his former self. Something was wrong with OJ Howard, mentally or physically. Where does Chris Godwin play? In the middle of the field. How did he hurt his knee? Going across the middle when somebody came and took out his knee. Okay. So now you're asking him to go across the middle where he's got linebackers, safeties, and nickel corners to contend with. And he's going to be catching passes from a less accurate quarterback who's probably going to be throwing him into traffic. Exactly, Matt. And you don't think
I love how we're just low key taking shots at Gabbert and Trask.
I'm just keeping it real.
I mean, you're right.
My point is though, is you don't think he's going to have maybe some alligator arms on a couple passes. You don't think he's going to have a couple drops because he's hearing some footsteps, right? I mean, that's a serious injury that he underwent. Now, maybe he comes back and has, 1,300 yards in the season. I wouldn't be shocked if he has 900 yards, right? Chris Godwin, because of the position he plays and what he's asked to do in the run game, blocking, etc., has not started every single game of his career. He missed games last year, obviously. He's missed games with concussions. He's had a broken pinky. I mean, there's just a litany of things he's had. Hamstring injuries.
Right.
So I disagreed with Moo about that because it's not a lock he's going to come back. People have this Adrian Peterson mindset of, well, he came back from the ACL and he rushed for 2,000 yards in a season. Okay, that is the wild outlier. That is the wild exception, not the rule. So a lot of times,
and that's sketchy for the Bucs giving him a big contract too. But I do think ACL recoveries are pretty common today, and you can trust it a lot more than an Achilles,
but
which is what Howard suffered.
Just because he's back to 100% physically and he can pass a physical and play. From a performance standpoint, he may not be able to give 100%. I've just covered too many players on the Buccaneers over the years that have had knee surgeries and have come back the next year and played, but it's almost like it takes 1 year to get back in the rhythm, and then the next year they're back to where they were or better.
Right.
And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens.
Yeah, there's some truth to that. You know what can help you get in the rhythm if you're not in the rhythm? It's a little bit of Celsius from our friends. Look at this stuff. Look at all the great flavors. Celsius energy drink, folks, the proud title sponsors of the Pewter Report podcast. I am enjoying my first sparkling orange pomegranate of my life today. Let me tell you, this is a good flavor right here, Scott. I understand what you were raving about. No sugar, healthy energy, natural caffeine, accelerates metabolism, burns body fat, and comes in so many different flavors that you can try. A bunch of them are on the screen. If you want to check out the flavors, you can go to Celsius.com, use the store locator, find out where they are near you, or click the banner ads over at pewterreport.com, and you can check them out there as well. Do the Amazon subscribe and save option and get Celsius coming to you with regularity as well. So it's a game changer. It'll help boost your day, and you'll get that boost without the crash that you get from other energy drinks. So definitely make sure that you check that out.
That's the
peach
orange
vibe,
orange pomegranate.
Orange pomegranate.
That's the truth right there, man.
Yeah, I'm very good on the show today, so it's good stuff. Okay, before we keep, I got one more thing I want to say on this situation. Let me find the comment that goes with it. About some of this, I can't find the comment now that I was going to say. Oh, Mike Williams and the Chargers. Not that you guys care necessarily, but I just want to explain the difference in the two situations and why the agent went to get the Mike Williams deal done first. A lot of people are going to say this was done by the Chargers, and that's fine. I mean, people have different opinions of Mike Williams' ability, and I'll leave that open. I think he's a good player. This is an overpay, obviously, but everybody's an overpay in free agency for the most part. So why they're getting to free agency, and the market resets in a couple years and nobody notices. Here's what I'll say though about the Chargers: they're in a window where their left tackle and their quarterback are on rookie contracts, and they're in a window where they have way more cap space than the Bucs and a decent amount of cap space. They're also in the AFC West, which is probably going to be the best division in football. They need to push, and they need to push. They don't even have a wide receiver 3 that's established right now. They need to rely on cheap guys and rookie contracts for that spot. So they want 2 studs out there. Mike Williams just had the best year of his career with Justin Herbert, caught 9 touchdowns, 1,100 yards. They feel like he's a player on the way up. They used him kind of like Michael Thomas, Joe Lombardi being their OC, obviously from the Saints. And they found a role for him. And because of that, they believe that they can get even better production out of him moving forward. He's been pretty available to them as well. So they basically had a ton of cap space. They said, you know what? We want 2 great receivers for our young quarterback on a rookie contract. We're going to push and try to win in this window. We've already done a lot to boost other spots on our team. We need to use most of our draft resources for the defense and to try and get better on that side of the ball, especially to stop the run and things like that. So I think that's why. And they said, you know what we're going to do, because we have all this space, we're going to front load Mike Williams' contract. So yes, he's getting $40 million guaranteed, but I think 28 of that is going in this year when they have all this space. So they're like, we're just going to put it all in there right now. And then we can really, if he doesn't produce, we can get out of his contract in a year and probably 2 years with no hit at all. So from the Chargers perspective, they're basically going all in on the next year or 2 of Mike Williams. And if he plays well, great. They've got him, on a pretty affordable rate.
And he's younger than Keenan Allen too, right?
Younger than Keenan Allen, Keenan Allen's about to be 30. Mike Williams is 27 and a half, I believe. So that's kind of the process from their standpoint. You can say, Mike Williams is just not that good, but they didn't really tie themselves up in future years when they need the space. Like when Justin Herbert and Rashawn Slater and some of these guys, they need contracts. They didn't really hurt themselves for that range. So just some insight into what Telesco is thinking there. Not that I'm a Chargers fan or anything, but that's why it's different than the Bucs. And he went to the Chargers first because he knew they could give the bag right away and they wouldn't hesitate. But the Bucs situation, a lot different.
He's doing his job in that sense.
That's exactly. He's looking out for all of his clients and screwing the Bucs in the process. And so
by the way, this same agent has Deebo Samuel, I believe, DK Metcalf, AJ Brown. Like, it's all 3 of them.
Wow.
Contracts coming up down the way. So that man's about to be. I forget his name.
Was he like a receiver whisperer or something? He's got like
that
all
is
the
pretty common of agents. They will often go to different positions and like just kind of focus on specific positions. That way they can master like the market and play teams against each other.
That makes sense.
Just like this guy has. So that is kind of how some of that works. Nate asked, did Casey have the cucumber flavor yesterday? She did. It's cucumber lime, right? I believe
cucumber lime.
Cucumber. I haven't tried it yet, but that's one. That was her. I think she said that was her favorite maybe on yesterday's show. I can't remember, but sorry, Scott, you can pull that super chat back up. I didn't see it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, Jason De La Torre with the $5 super chat. Thank you, JC.
Thank you.
Lots of noise about the Bucs and Deshaun Watson today. Rappaport, assuming he's not indicted, what's the cost in picks, players, and cap dollars? See, do the Buccaneers need a big-time quarterback? Yes, they do. The problem with the Buccaneers is they have a ton of holes, right? And I don't know that they have the draft capital to compete with other teams that might want him, right? The Eagles.
Who's he asking about? Sorry, I missed it.
Deshaun Watson.
Oh, Watson. Yeah.
I just don't think they have the capital to do that. And I think ideally, in a perfect world, if they were to pursue Deshaun Watson, they would hope that this doesn't get resolved until after the draft, so that this year's draft picks aren't even in play.
Right.
Jason Light and the Buccaneers have got to come away with at least 2 and maybe 3 starters from this year's draft. They've got to find a Tristan Wirfs and an Antoine Winfield, right? They've got to do that this year, because they're going to have some holes. They're not going to be able to bring everybody back. They're going to lose either probably Jensen or Kappa. One of those guys almost assuredly won't be back. There's a chance Carlton Davis isn't back. They're going to have some holes. Defensive tackle,
right?
They're going to. I don't know. The Sue's coming back.
Right. I want to ask Matt about this too, because I want to get his thoughts on this. But I just want to say, like, the Watson thing, we'll talk about in a second here. One of the things the Bucs have done a great job of avoiding so far is giving up anything significant for a quarterback who absolutely sucks. But today we did see a team.
That's right. We did.
Up an absurd amount. This is what Washington gave up. This is mind-boggling to me that we can
the
be
Washington
at this point
Commodores
still. Unbelievable. They flipped second-round picks with the Colts this year. So the Colts moved up like 8 spots because of it, 6 spots, something like that, because of it. They flipped those picks. They gave up 2 third-round picks, and one of those, one this year, one next year. One of those third-rounders can become a second if Carson Wentz plays over 70% of the snaps, which I think was the same incentive that the Colts had last year, which he probably will, because they don't have anything else at quarterback. They can stay healthy. So they basically gave up another second, a third, and they took on his entire contract. And he's not even average. He's bad.
Yeah, Washington gonna Washington, folks.
I mean, it's unbelievable for the fact that, one, they just agreed to trade for him, but 2, to give up the picks as well. It's a lose-lose situation. I could just imagine Indy gets off the phone after the deal is done. It's like, I can't believe they did that. Like, you idiots, I
guess an article just came out. An article just came out that negotiations started at a 4th and a 6th from Washington.
Oh my God.
And they got him to that.
Wow.
How desperate do you have to be?
It's a swindling of the highest degree in the NFL.
I mean, that is just that is unbelievable that not many trades are just this clear cut awful, and this is just so bad. There's like no way this works for Washington.
The thing is I've gone on record before. I'm not calling them their new name. I'm calling them the Commodores, not the Vanderbilt Commodores, like the Lionel Richie Commodores. Okay. But this trade is so bad, I'm actually not even calling them the Commodores anymore. I'm calling them the Commodes.
Yeah.
Like the toilets, the commodes, the Washington commodes.
They're never going to be able to pay for the new stadium seating, so fans don't fall onto the field with when they're picking up Carson Wentz's contract.
It's true.
And I do think Chris Ballard deserves credit for this. Obviously, like if you
he does.
Negotiate to this point, no question. It is important to note for those people saying like, oh, I saw somebody early in the comments, just, that wasn't a comparison. They were just saying it'd be hard for Jason Light to top that this offseason. It does need to be said that he also traded a 1st-round pick for Carson Wentz after quite a bit of train wreck level play, and it did not work out, obviously, for them either. They basically had to try and hide him all season. And if you see the reports that are out right now, there's an article that just came out in The Athletic talking about this is another part of the massive concern for Washington. Carson Wentz as a leader just being atrocious behind the scenes and everything for the second straight stop, both with great quarterback minds that liked him and wanted him, but couldn't get it done with him. And now Washington thinks the Washington compost thinks they're going to figure.
I like that.
That's a good one.
Good one.
That's the comment of the day. Tony.
Get this franchise out of the league. Honestly, like we could do better somewhere else.
Like,
we can give St. Louis a team back or something like this. Is just absurd. I mean, ridiculous. Anyway, back to the Deshaun Watson thing. Matt, I want to get your thoughts on this because I haven't heard from you as much on this. I will just add that I don't necessarily, although I hear you on the draft compensation, and it could matter for sure, because of Watson's no trade clause and because of the fact that he is due $35 million this year.
That's
that
a
Houston,
bit of a hindrance as well.
Yeah, like Houston might have to look at this.
Space.
Right. They might have to, and his stock might only go down if he sits out another year. It's 2 years removed from the last time he played. Yeah. So they might be in a little bit of a desperation situation where they're like, you know what? Where do you want to go, Deshaun? And then he's got to pick, and then they just have to take the best available offer. And it's still going to be a good offer, probably a big offer for him. And we know Deshaun Watson from his comments in the past likes Bruce Arians. Obviously, the Bucs roster are better than a lot of the other ones he could go to. Now there is Philly out there, and they're okay. And, there's the Saints out there, and they're competitive too, and we'll see what happens. Obviously, none of this is happening if his legal situation doesn't get cleared up, and depends what happens with that. So there's a large amount of this, so we don't know. But Matt, what are your thoughts on this whole Deshaun Watson mess?
Yeah, first of all, obviously everything has to be cleared up and all the legal allegations. If he's able to settle and everything like that, and there's a situation where he could come back into this season and either doesn't get suspended for too long, or they already say, well, he was out for an entire season. So that kind of, well, he got paid though, but that kind of counts as, as a suspension for him. If all of those things are cleared up, and as Bruce likes to say, the price is right and the deal is real, and it wouldn't cost them, an extreme amount of draft picks, maybe again, even after the draft, as you just brought up, Scott, then I think the Bucs should pursue it. I mean, let's be realistic. The Bucs have had other controversial guys on the team, whether it's Jameis Winston or Antonio Brown. So they've brought in other guys, in precarious situations.
22 women. Yeah. 22.
Yeah.
Not one.
That's not red flags. That's my guy got a problem.
I think the other thing you got to, and obviously I'm not condoning.
Where's the stadium located, Matt?
Raymond James Stadium?
Yeah. Just generally speaking, it's right off of where?
Right.
What major road?
Right off of Dale Mabry.
Right off of Dale Mabry.
Yeah.
I
read the Fab Five.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking
there's
about.
like massage parlors, like I think 5 of them.
Hey, that's going to be anywhere my guy goes. He's got to get help.
So that's the thing too, is I understand, like, okay, if he's available, don't go for him and everything like that. But another team is going to pick him up one way or another because he's still talented, and teams want to win. And whether it's right or wrong, winning solves a lot of things, or good play solves a lot of things. And you would know, Deshaun Watson, you're going to have this guy. He's your franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. And if he's on the Bucs, then all right, well,
he's going to face
to win the South.
I hear you, Matt, and I'm not trying to like argue with you because I think from a talent standpoint, yes, I want it. Like if I'm playing Madden football, I'm making the trade, right? Because I don't know that there's like an upload or like, or I should say a download of like massage parlors in the actual Madden game. I think it's pretty much straight football, thankfully. But the issue with Deshaun Watson is he's going to get suspended, right? It's probably going to be, my guess is half a season. Okay.
See, that to me is not worth it if he's going to be suspended for that long.
And right.
Well,
and
there's just so many ways to look at it. You're going to have him for years probably because he's young. It's not like a Russell Wilson situation.
So you kind of weather the storm, right? I get that.
But also, man, if you're getting suspended for 8 games, what happened in the court, like when this thing's resolved, like that?
Not just that, John. What if this is not a, like you said, it's a problem, right? Like this isn't like a once, like a bad night. I was out drinking, I got a little handsy, whatever.
You worry it comes up again. It comes up again for him.
And if it does, he's gone. He's done for a year.
So you traded, a couple firsts for nothing.
And you don't know when that's going to happen or if it's going to happen. It's like a ticking time bomb situation.
Yeah, it is a mess. I really have no idea what's going to happen there. And we've got court. There's stuff happening Friday. I'm not going to get a ton of the details. There's stories out there. I think he's going to plead the 5th, basically. I think, and then there's this is starting to accelerate. I do think a deal will happen for him before the draft. I agree. It's got to be great if it was after the draft.
Yeah,
I think you'll see a deal probably right up around the draft and maybe even
it
the week
might even
before,
be a
things
thing
like
where
that.
he's not even criminally charged, but that still is not going to keep him from not getting suspended.
Doesn't take it away completely for sure.
It doesn't.
Yeah. Right. Lots of red flags, lots of question marks there. So we've talked about the Carlton Davis and the Chris Godwin situations. We promised yesterday we talk about the Deshaun Watson stuff. I do think there'll be a couple teams that are suitors for him. There's some level of interest, I feel like, but I don't know that there's going to be anything significant enough to get this thing done. Let's go to Matt's Bucs battle plan for the offseason. Scott, you proofed this thing and saw it at the end of our comments here and asking Matt questions. We will each say one thing that we liked about it and one thing that we hated about it.
Oh, okay.
And
we're
so
doing that.
just
Good.
just
Lay it
prepare
on me.
yourself. Yeah,
Eviscerate
prepare
me.
yourself for both. Yes, Matt. We did that yesterday on the pod. We did that with Josh Capo, and it was his first show, and we just let him have it. Yep. Casey went on for like 10 minutes.
Welcome to Computer Report. You suck.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
No, it was great. It was he handled it really well, and it was hard to find a lot of bad things, to be honest. It was a pretty good battle plan.
Yeah.
Was Matt's the same way, Scott? What were your observations? I don't know. Go ahead. I'm going to look at Matt's battle plan while you're talking, but
okay.
I know you have some questions for Matt.
Don't hold
based
back
on the battle plan.
Okay. Yes. So let me got it right here. Okay. So,
God, you hate it already.
Well, I
He's
mean,
like, how do you even start? This is just crap.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
The thing is, I mean, first of all, I mean, I think you made the most logical move of the entire situation and bringing Blaine Gabbert back. I mean, that right there. Once you did that, I mean, I'm trying to find holes in this thing, and I really can't because you got Blaine. You're on the Blaine train. I appreciate that. All aboard. Having said that, you bring back Carlton Davis and you pay him a buttload of money, 4 years, $70 million. I would say maybe the most controversial thing you did was you hit the reset button at the kicker and punter position. You got rid of Bradley Pinion and you got rid of Ryan Suckup. So that is somewhat controversial. Neither one of those players had the year that they had during the Super Bowl run, but I don't think that they were that bad. Was the thinking there just from a cap perspective, trying to get younger at the position? What was your thinking about special teams? Because let's face it, they're not special in Tampa, but they could be less special if you get rid of those guys. So talk a little bit.
Yeah. For me, it pretty much mostly came down to just finding enough cap room after the Godwin franchise tag. Because again, I was going by, whether they work out a deal later, that doesn't really help right now with this Bucs battle plan. So for me, it was more than anything else, just trying to get as much more cap room as I could possibly get.
Right.
Bradley Pinion, he was injured for some of the year and was, average at best.
Right.
I know he brings an extra boost with being able to do the kickoffs as well.
Right.
But
so
again,
you want special teams to just suck, but be cheaper. Is that what you're saying?
Well, we'll see if they suck or not. But I definitely want them to be cheaper. And when Bradley Pinion kicks 2 balls out of bounds on the kickoff in the divisional round, I don't necessarily know if,
that's a great point.
How much more could the special teams really suck when it comes down to that?
Well said.
So, and I addressed that in the draft. Obviously, everyone's very high on Matt, or I don't know how you say his last name, Arazia, but there's another guy actually in the same conference as him, Ryan Stonehouse.
That's right. You have him in your mock draft.
Yeah, he was a 3-time first team All Mountain West punter, second team last year, but because Matt got the first one. But he averaged 50.9 yards per punt last year. So I think you're at least taking a guy that's the best at his position.
That Mountaineer too, though. He's a Colorado State guy. Yeah. So there's the Mountaineer there too. But listen, go ahead.
No, and I was just going to say on Suckup, again, a very solid guy. I understand, you'd probably be downgrading a little bit, but you save the money. And for me, with Suckup, he wasn't as good last year as he was in 2020.
Right.
And I just, in today's NFL, a lot of these kickers can kick from 52 plus and things like that. And I think, again, with the Bucs offense, that it's going to be struggling for points. It's not going to be 30 points week in and week out.
That's right.
You can live with Suckup being more of and he could hit from 45 and stuff like that, but being more comfortable the closer you can get by with that with Tom Brady. But again, when you're starving for points this year, Borghaus has been there for a while. Bruce Arians has spoken highly of him. I understand in practice is way different than in a regular season game. But again, to make the dollars and cents work, you had to,
It's interesting. It's interesting to note, and kicker is a very important position. Jason Light could have easily said, you know what, I'm going to keep my guy, Matt Gay, right, in 2020 because he's the draft pick and he had a little bit of a shaky end of the season, but we believe in Matt. And Matt, to his credit, has turned into a very good kicker for the Rams, winning a Super Bowl. But at the same time, maybe it was the change of scenery, getting him out of Tampa, that kickstarted that thing there. So I would not be surprised if Jose ends up beating out Suckup. And if that's the case, I could see Jason letting Ryan Suckup go, even though he's the established veteran, because he's not beholden to his guys. I mean, they're all his guys if he's bringing them in. So I'm not wouldn't be surprised if that happened.
So talk to me, Matt, about this Marcus May. You decided not to bring back Jordan Whitehead in your battle plan. Instead, you signed Marcus May in free agency. May coming off a torn Achilles injury, but that he suffered, I believe, was that in November? As a Jets fan, I think you know.
Yeah,
he's a former Jet, John. I mean,
a former New York
talking about.
But this actually makes sense
last year,
right? Because Todd Bowles was the coach.
Todd Bowles drafted Marcus May, and that went.
And not only did Todd Bowles draft him, Matt, I learned when I was in Indianapolis and I was asking around to some people in the know, this was a Todd Bowles pick. It wasn't general manager. Who was the general manager then? Was it Joe Douglas for the? No, it wasn't. He was after. I forget who it was.
It was McCagnon.
It was McCagnon, right? Bowles, but this was the one that Todd Bowles stood on the table for. Remember, they drafted Jamal Adams.
One of those guys that we like a lot, and
that's right.
That's how really comfortable with him, and
that's how he felt about it.
Tampa.
Very good impersonation.
We're really disappointed to see Jordan leave. We like
I think
Jordan.
There's too much emotion still. Less emotion.
Wait, did we just get Todd Bowles on the show? Todd, are you there?
I just think the Marcus can do a lot of the things we're looking for him to do, and we wish Jordan well.
I do think that this has an actual possibility of happening, and I'm going to be dialed into this one to see if the Bucs have some interest in there as he gets to hit free agency. But what did you see in May's game that made you think, oh, this is a good fit with Winfield?
I think just first of all, the versatility, which is why Todd Bowles brought him into New York in the first place. I think you could put him at free safety, and you can put him at strong safety as well too. And I know he missed a lot of games last year, but before that, he played 16 games in the 2 previous seasons. The year before, so 4 years ago, he played 6, and then his rookie year, he played almost every game as well too. So yeah, the Achilles thing is big, but I think him playing 16 games the 2 prior seasons is helpful too. I just like that he can play well with star players too. I mean, Jamal Adams obviously is not what he was a couple of years ago,
right?
But I think he can just mesh extremely well with Antoine Winfield Jr. And if Antoine's going to be the star and making the plays, like Marcus May isn't really going to have an issue with that. Really just versatility more than anything else, I think is really important. And again, stats don't dictate everything, but if you go back to 2020, Marcus May had 88 tackles, 2 sacks, 11 pass breakups, 2 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles. Jordan Whitehead that same year, and granted different defenses, but 74 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, 4 pass breakups, and 1 forced fumble. So the stats are very similar, almost in most cases better for Marcus May than it was for Jordan Whitehead. So I just think too, again, when you look at the contract, I'm projecting and predicting that Whitehead is going to get a little more money thrown at him because of the last 2 seasons that he's had. So could get a little bit more than, a little bit more towards the 8-9 million range.
Yep.
And because May is on a prove-it deal, I think it fits better contractually for the Bucs.
You also have the Buccaneers losing center Ryan Jensen. And let's talk about some of the free agents. You talked about Marcus May. Which center do you have? Are you going to go with Robert Hainsey? No, you're going to bring somebody in with some experience to challenge Hainsey for that job, right?
That is absolutely right.
Brian Allen.
It's Brian Allen. I knew it was Brian. The last name was slipping on me. Yeah, Brian Allen just played with the Rams, won a Super Bowl there last year. Another guy that has a little bit of an injury history. He had an MCL injury in 2019, and then he was actually the first player to get contracted with COVID during the COVID-ridden 2020 season. But on top of that, it took him a little bit more to recover from his MCL injury. But even with all of that, he's pretty good in his zone blocking scheme. He's He's quite mobile. He can move up the field. He can go across the face of the defensive tackle in front of him. He gave up, I believe, 5 sacks last year pass blocking. So that's something that
this is a solid guy to come in there. Looking at your other free agents, you have a guy that I like that I think could be a real possibility. John, you might agree. Chase Edmonds from Arizona, pass catching running back. He played
if Bernard's not back, he
played in Arizona under Byron Leftwich in that 2019 season. So, or I should say 2018 season. So there's a bit of a connection there. Also, tight end Mo Alley Cox from the Colts, who I had in my battle plan. I think a very good pick there. And then you really kind of were listening closely to what Bruce Arians was talking about from the defensive tackle position, Matt. Getting a player, because you have Ndamukong Suh not returning. So you have Larry Ogunjoby, right? Nailed it. Larry Ogunjoby. Yes. Nailed it.
This is an interesting one because Ogunjoby hurt his foot and could miss the beginning of the season. I guess he hurt his foot late in the playoffs and could miss the beginning of the season, but I've considered him too. That's interesting for a couple reasons. One, he is definitely a fit in terms of what the traits Bruce Arians talked about. He has not developed as a pass rusher, but he is potentially a fit. But also, you have him with a 3-year, $24 million contract here. I mean, there's a possibility with his injury, he might be on a prove it too. It wasn't like he was killing it before he got to the Bengals. He was
he kind of already had that somewhat like a prove it year, just
and he was solid in a rotation, but I mean, he could get something like that again. It could be another pretty cheap Marcus May deal. I feel like to bring him on board.
Yeah, he had 7 sacks.
Yeah, well, that's what popped out to me, and obviously I listened.
Not great against the run.
The two goats, but
not great against the run. But he's the guy you want to bring in there to kind of fits that mold. Yeah, rotate him, put him in there on third downs.
He just is inconsistent. He has all the traits. He had years. I remember his rookie year. I watched him.
He's at a Charlotte, isn't he?
Pouncy and Charlotte
kid.
And it was like, man, this guy could be the next great D tackle. People thought, and I was just like, one of the biggest things about playing D tackle is consistency, man.
Right.
You can have a great play, but you never stay on the field if you can't play every down. You're never going to be great that way. So this was good. It was an interesting draft too. I'm not going to give the whole thing away to people because I know we got to keep it moving, but I liked your mock draft a good bit.
Liked your mock a lot. Yeah.
Not only did I love, I don't necessarily, there's some of the players I haven't watched, but I liked it in terms of, I felt like everybody you picked was kind of like a Bucs prototype. If Dylan Parham coming in, the Memphis guard coming in at 3'11", I mean, he was listed at 285.
Yeah, that was huge.
He came in at 3'11" and tested great at the combine. So he can carry that weight, which is big. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe he could end up being a fit.
Former tight end. I just find so interesting. He was a former tight end, so he's going to have that footwork. And I mentioned it in it too. You go back to, if you guys remember, the infamous Leonard Fournette touchdown run in the Super Bowl and the Fournette touchdown run against the Colts that essentially closed out the game.
Pulling guard,
both of those pulling guard, and I don't know. I just picture Parham in that type of role right there.
And a Caleb Evans was. I'm actually mad at you for that because I had him written down after the combine as somebody.
I love the Troy Anderson pick. That was
and the Troy Anderson, the linebacker.
Well, you put him on my radar, and I saw it with my own 2 eyes.
Let's talk about that. A second round linebacker. I am in the process of doing my battle plan, and one of the things I'm stuck on is that there are 2 positions that I think are really loaded with talent in this draft, even with talent at the top and talent and depth. And really only 2 positions that I see that way. And I need to watch some more of them. But linebacker and edge defender, I really don't. I'm of the opinion I don't think the Bucs are going to draft an edge defender, maybe at all, let alone early in the draft. I think they feel like they're set there. Nelson's developing, Gill's coming up, and I just don't feel like they're going to spend resources there with some of their other needs. But linebacker, it's almost like, man, this class is so good. Like at some point, do you have to dip into a class like this just because of how good the position is? So what did you see with Anderson that made you want to do that even as early as the second round, which I think would surprise people if they went there in the first or second round? But it was interesting. It has me thinking.
Yeah, Anderson is a guy too that his stock has just been soaring really from the Senior Bowl and the combine as well too. He ran a 4.4 240, which was the fastest out of.
And he's 243 pounds, 6'3".
He's
crazy.
It's funny too because Anderson was a player as I'm trying to fill out my mock draft, and I obviously knew who I had going number 1, and I want to get a running back too, but I thought round 2 was way too early for a running back, and I already had Parham, slotted into the third. But Anderson, I think too, again, he's a guy that used to play running back, so he's got those instincts
and quarterback.
He played quarterback as well too. So he's got those natural instincts of already playing that position. And I saw it at the Senior Bowl, just him going sideline to sideline, being able to read a play, see it develop before it even really gets going. I thought was really interesting to me. He had 150 tackles his last year playing football, and obviously that stands out. So he's getting his nose involved everywhere on most plays. And we don't want to live in a world where Lavonte David isn't playing football for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but eventually.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on.
Going to get there.
Oh, you have Troy Anderson replacing Lavonte David. I thought you were going to have him replace Devin White, who may not be back after his 5th-year option, Matt.
Chill, dog.
Sure, there's
the people are ready for
that scenario's out there too. If Devin White can get it together though, and Anderson
I think
does get in there,
I think Devin White is going to have a bounce back year. I really do.
2 really fast linebackers out there. If this comes to play,
it'll be great at running the 40 for sure. Okay, this was a good mock. I heard this, I liked your mock, and I liked the battle plan in general. I thought it was good stuff.
Definitely.
So
definitely make sure you go over to pewterreport.com and check that out, Bucs fans. Lots of good content over there for you to take a look at. And my Bucs battle plan is coming out tomorrow, Scott.
That's
and
awesome.
JC's and Casey's are coming out this weekend. It's got a lot of battle plans rolling out over at Pewter Report.
It's madness is what it is, John. It's absolute madness. Why is it madness? Well, we're in March, right? It's not just not just for college basketball. I mean, we have free agency starting next week, guys. Right. I mean, this is madness of epic proportions. And the place to get in on all the madness, of course, is MyBookie. March is here. The madness is officially beginning. It's time for you to shoot your shot and score big on the nonstop action with MyBookie. Predict the winners in each round of the MyBookie bracket contest, which is coming up next week, for a chance to win a Bitcoin, a Doodle NFT, currently valued at over $50,000, and over $100,000 more in cash prizes. So whether you're filling out multiple brackets, betting on the national championship winner, or simply looking for those player and game props, MyBookie has you covered. Folks, there's never been a better time to join MyBookie. Get in on all the March Madness and all the other sports that are happening right now. Sign up today. Use the promo code Pewter to make your first deposit. When you do, you're going to enter. You're going to get a free entry into the My Bracket contest. So the selections for the bracket officially begin on March 13th. They close on March 17th at 12 p.m. So make sure you get your deposit in now with the promo code Pewter to secure that free entry. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
I think we've got a little bit of news here, Scott. I don't know if it's news or not. Okay, I'm texting you right now. And I'm asking you if this, I'm showing you on your phone. Look at your phone and you tell me, is this the former Bucs quarterback, Sean King, that is tweeting this? That's him. Okay.
That's him.
So he has tweeted, hearing if things go, and I have no idea if Sean King is a newsbreaker or anything like that. Hearing if things go well Friday, Deshaun Watson to the Steelers is happening soon after that. That's what he tweeted out. And so there's been some reaction to that. Obviously, I have no idea. I mean, you may know what Sean King's up to these days. I have no idea or how he would be related to this situation, if he works with Deshaun Watson or what is going on in this spot. Not that, has he tweeted false news before? Like, what is the story with this? Do you have any idea?
I have not. I don't know anything about this. This is just
right.
I know Sean, and I think that we've seen some former players put stuff out on Twitter before and that have gotten scolded, right? That it's blown up in their face. I think Sean's probably aware of that, right? We're not going to mention anyone's names, but if he's putting it out there, I'm not taking it as gospel, but I'm also looking at it with some open eyes and saying, okay, we'll see.
Be interesting. Obviously, there has been buzz about that lately, but nothing close to what he's kind of saying there. So we'll have to see how it plays out.
And again, one of the things that I've felt all along about Deshaun Watson is yes, he has to agree with where he wants to go. At the same time, the Texans are looking to get as much out of it as they can. And the Buccaneers, they've got the 27th overall pick. And that's not nearly as enticing as the Steelers, who have about almost 10 picks ahead of them, or the Eagles, who have multiple first round picks this year. If they wanted him. So I've really been hesitant about the whole Deshaun Watson thing, plus the accusations, the $35 million. There's would I like to see it? Yes, I would like to see the talent Deshaun Watson.
Talent part's no question. There's a lot of peripheral stuff that, and something we don't even have a great vantage point into, so we just are going off what we assume is true at this point in time. So we'll see what happens with him. Obviously, we'll keep him on. I just thought that was interesting because I was pretty sure that was the former Bucs quarterback Sean King tweeting about it, and so I was I wonder if you'll have some insight into that. But we'll see how it plays out. Obviously,
the thing is we've already had one quarterback get to Colorado, right? And folks, if you're looking for a way to get to Colorado too, and hang on, in about 30 seconds, you'll find out what I'm talking about. You want to make sure that your finances are with the good folks over at Amuni Financial.
At Amuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Dude, congratulations. We're so happy for you.
Thank you. And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Amuni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
Folks, you got to join me and Jon and Matt and Russell Wilson out of Colorado. And how do you do that? How do you make that trip happen? Well, you leave it up to the folks at Amuni Financial. No, they're not travel planners, but what they're going to do is they're going to take your money and invest it so you have the money to retire, to build up your college savings accounts for your kids, to provide the brokerage and advisory services that you need to help grow your portfolio and manage it properly. And it also, they can help you with insurance services and legacy planning. So managing your family's wealth means more to Amuni Financial than simply allocating your assets. Over 40 years of experience in the Tampa Bay area, do what I did. Let Amuni Financial help you plan ahead and stay ahead. Give them a call at 1-800-868-6864 or visit them on the web at amuni.com.
This is the whole Leonard Fournette thing over his Instagram post is absolutely killing me. Like, I think Leonard Fournette's going to leave in free agency, but he posted, haven't had a chance to reflect about the season. Thank you to people.
Stop right there. Stop. Repeat the first half of that sentence again.
He just said, I haven't had a chance to reflect about last season. He just made a post about it. And then people are like, oh man, he's done. He's leaving.
He's reflecting. He's telling you what he's doing.
In deep thought.
Yeah.
I just thought he was looking back in appreciation for the last season because he hasn't been on social that much. That was all I got from it. I mean, I do think he's going to end up leaving, but I don't know.
I agree too.
Know that right now. So anyway, it's just funny, but good stuff. Tomorrow on the pod, we'll be talking about my Bucs battle plan, and we might even be talking a little bit about JC's Bucs battle plan because he is absolutely being a complete pest about trying to get his battle plan up. So we might even get him in here to talk about his battle plan.
When was JC supposed to have his battle plan done?
Well, it was supposed to be Tuesday, right? So he had a great opportunity to get out in front of everything. But then when I said, JC, you get to go Tuesday, he said, oh my God, I can't do it on Tuesday. It's too much.
What's today? Today's
Wednesday, and tomorrow
he didn't even have it done today, right?
No. So I think he says it's done now, but we'll have to. We look at it and we know it's gonna be full of holes. He's gonna cap hit's gonna the cap isn't 280 million. JC, you can't sign everybody. JC Jackson, Stephon Gilmore trying to get the whole Patriots old secondary back up in Tampa Bay.
He's gonna have Gronk back. He's gonna call Logan Mankins out of retirement, right?
He's getting Malloy back.
He's gonna get Teddy Bruschi out of the ESPN booth.
Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis is gonna be the third down back.
Yeah, exactly.
Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis. Great poll. Great stuff. JC's in the chat, so he's just taking it on the chin right now. It's like what a champ. I love it. This is good stuff. Tomorrow we'll talk more about it, and maybe there'll be Chris Godwin news? ? We'll see.
There might be.
So we got a lot about to break down tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you don't miss that one. And then obviously next week we got a full slate of free agency shows lined up for y'all too. Yes. So it's going to be a lot of fun. The times for next week may alter just so we can make sure we have a good meat of the news to talk about each day. Maybe kind of as the day winds down, it might be later shows. We'll see. We'll talk about some of those.
There might be some emergency podcasts coming, right? If some major news happens, you never know.
It's possible for sure. Next week's going to be a wild one. So make sure you're tuned in with us. Obviously, subscribe to the Pewter Report YouTube TV channel. Hit the like button on the video.
Notifications too, right, Jon? You can get notifications if you subscribe. So that's the best thing to do is subscribe to Pewter Report TV on YouTube. and then hit the like button, but also hit the notifications button. So if we do some of those emergency podcasts or we have some different times, you'll know exactly when we're going to be on.
Right. Yep. Lots to talk about next week. Probably no team with more to talk about next week than the Bucs. So we'll have you covered every step of the way. So looking forward to it. Again, thanks everybody for listening. Appreciate y'all. We'll catch you again next time on another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.
This is March.